Well, fuck. I remember you.
Those were up, and they did.
We're smart, and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Donji Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new rant. And this rant is going to be for the second rant of the Infinity Saga. The 20th film of the Infinity Saga. The series I'm currently almost finished reviewing. And this one is for what is the worst film of the Infinity Saga. And was for a time the worst MCU movie, until another badder movie surpassed it in 2021. And this one was the debut of the most hated character of the MCU. And the film that made this character hated. In comics too now. And that film is going to be for none other than 2019's Captain Mary Sue. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Captain Marvel. Right. The strongest Avenger, my ass. What's the plot of this? Well, after crashing an experimental aircraft, Air Force pilot Carol Danvers is discovered by the Kree and trained as a member of the elite Star Force military under the command of her mentor, Yon Rock. And 6 years later, after escaping to Earth while under attack by the Skrulls, Danvers begins to discover there's more to her past. With help from S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Nick Fury, they set out to unravel the truth. How was this film made? Well, by May 2013, Marvel Studios' writing room had produced a script for a film featuring Miss Marvel, and allies used by the character Carol Danvers before she took the mantle of Captain Marvel. Later that year, executive producer Louis D'Apposito said the studio was interested in a female-driven superhero film and had plenty of strong female characters from which to choose, suggesting Captain Marvel, Black Widow, Pepper Potts, or Peggy Carter as possible candidates. Should have went with either of the other four. Kevin Feige, president of Marvel Studios, said that if Marvel was to make a female-led film, they would prefer to be a new character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe like Captain Marvel, for whom an origin story could be told. In August 2014, Feige stated that development had begun on a Captain Marvel film, as the members of the public asked about the project more often than Iron Man 4 Avengers Infinity War. Why? Why ask about this bullshit? Why? Makes no sense. In October 2014, Feige announced that Captain Marvel would be the studio's first female-led film and would focus on Carol Danvers. It was given a release on July 6, 2018, as part of Phase 3 slate of films, and even instead the film had been in development almost as long as Guardians of the Galaxy and Doctor Strange, and one of his biggest challenges would be balancing the title's characters' Earthbound adventures with their cosmic powers, and even said a writer and director of the film would be announced soon, and female filmmakers were being considered for the project, but could not promise that filmmakers from a similar demographic would be hired for the film. In February 2015, Marvel pushed the release date back to November 2nd, 2018 to accompany Spider-Man Homecoming. In early April, Feige revealed that Captain Marvel had been included in an early draft of the Avengers Age of Ultron screenplay. Marvel chose to remove the appearance because they did not want to introduce the character before they were able to explore backstory and personality first. And he even stated that Marvel would announce writers for the film within a few weeks, and by mid-April, Guardians of the Galaxy co-screenwriter Nicole Perlman and Inside Out co-screenwriter Meg LeFauve were announced to be writing the screenplay. And put together a writing team after impressing Feige with several takes on the character, and began work on the film within a month. Jessica Gao, who would later become the head writer for She-Hulk Attorney at Law, also pitched for the film, They found the character being a female superhero film to be both wonderful and a challenge, believing the character's power level could lead to the Superman curse being perceived as to be invulnerable. Additionally, Lee Favre and Perlman found that writing a story about a human and not getting too overwhelmed by the warrior representing all women worked best when approaching a story. An article about young girls who had quit learning to code when they encountered trouble made Lee Favre and Perlman considered questions about females being taught they could not make mistakes and embrace their own power. This helped the duo realize that part of embracing their power was failure and seeing it more as feedback instead of their character. And by May, Marvel discussions with Ava DuVernay about directing Captain Marvel Black Panther, when Feige confirmed a month later say that he had met with DuVernay about almost a number of other directors that expressed a decision to be made by mid to late 2015. And that to September, Feige stated that the casting process would not begin until 2016, and the studio did not want to try to cast Carol Danvers until they decided the direction for the character in the screenplay, as well as the structure of the film and the character's role in the rest of Marvel's Phase 3 films. Producer Jeremy Latcham elaborated that getting the character right first is going to lead the charge. In October 2015, Marvel changed the release date again, and they moved it to March 8, 2019 to make room for Ant-Man and the Wasp. And honestly, after the film was shot and marketed horribly, Captain Marvel premiered in London on February 27, 2019, and was tragically released in the United States on March 8, 2019, as part of Phase 3 in the MCU. At the box office, it was a hit, grossing for $1.1 billion worldwide, making the first female-led superhero film to pass the $1 billion mark. Why this instead of Wonder Woman getting that mark? Why? It became the 5th highest-grossing film of 2019, and was the 23rd highest-grossing film of all time during its theatrical run. And the film received positive reviews from critics, of course, with praise for the performances of the cast, particularly that of Brie Larson. And a sequel is going to be released on November 10th, 2023, and I will not be watching it. Because as for my reaction, well, I remember when I was a big dumbass in my college time, and I was a big moron in my college time, I stupidly got hyped for Carol's appearance when they teased her debut in Infinity War, and then I saw her trailers, and my interest was going down as more and more trailers appeared. You know what's worse? During the press conference, Carol's actress Brie Larson had already lost a lot of respect from us after she straight up acted all racist and thought white men hated her in films. That's not even the case at all. No. The reason why we were not excited for your film is because your performance was turning out to not even seem enthusiastic and your character was just coming off as cocky in every trailer for your movie. And trying to be too hard to be Tony Stark miserably. Not only that, but it turned Rotten Tomatoes into a joke as well, as they got rid of the want-to-see percentages following the backlash this and Rise of Skywalker were getting. But anyway, enough about that, because I went and saw this movie in theaters the night it released, and what did I think of it? At the time, first time I saw it, it was okay, but over the months, and after the release of ENDGAME, my opinion soured, and now I think it's easily the worst film of the Infinity Saga without a doubt. And it was the worst MCU film of the time until another MCU movie came out that I ranted on and thankfully don't ever have to talk about. Just fuck this movie. So much. Sorry guys, I can't yell. I don't want to yell in this household. I don't want to attract a lot of noise, so this is as loud as I can sound. Okay, so who was the most powerful hero before Captain Marvel? Thor, obviously. Hulk is strong, and he didn't unleash his full potential, but it could be more angry, but Asgardian, which is also God of Thunder, unleashed his full potential in Ragnarok and found his new weapon Stormbreaker in Infinity War, built from a dying star. Like it said in the Infinity War, it was by far the strongest weapon, and we see how powerful Thor is with Stormbreaker. He was even able to break Blast from Infinity Gauntlet and almost kill Thanos. But sadly, he should have went for the head. Remember that? I just didn't enjoy most of the movie. The pacing was terrible, there's no style in it, something to make you think it has a mark or a voice given by the directors. Like for example, if you watch a Tarantino movie, you know that it's his movie without even looking it up. Marvel's marketing campaign for the film had me expecting to leave the theater like maybe the 90s references in particular would like, okay, this was not bad, but it didn't come even close. The mid-credit scene was at least better than the movie, but I was just disappointed. They pushed it too far. The movie had a lot of promise, And I did try to be optimistic when I was seeing the trailers. Maybe I was like, come on guys, maybe this won't be too bad. Maybe this will be decent. We could just try to give it a chance. No, I should have listened to them. It has a lot of neat ideas and some great 90s throwbacks, but it doesn't pay them off. The biggest twists are both spoiled by the movie itself and could have done a neat Bourne Identity type story discovering her past, but the trailers literally told us who she was. In case you missed the trailers, like the movie, you haven't seen the trailers at all, the movie showed us in a mind reading flashback in the start of the movie. They could have done a nice twist about who are the good guys and who are the bad guys, but the movie spoils that by showing us characters who are revealed as villains in Guardians of the Galaxy, so I already know who's going to be bad. It could have done a nice fish out of water story, but Brie Larson's performance is cocky, annoying, and completely one note. There's no change in behavior between Vers and Carol. And on a side note, the de-aging of Fury was good, definitely, but carrying on that technology for that much screen time makes the uncanny valley effect inevitable. And did it take me out of the story a few times? And just Coulson just looks plastic in the stairwell scene too. And now, thanks to Captain Mary Sue, Thor is no longer the most powerful hero. Like we saw in the movie, Carol Danvers is now somehow the most powerful character. I refuse to call her a hero, guys. She's not a hero. Introduced in the MCU, how did she get these powers? Oh, she's human and destroyed some ship's engine and absorbed its energy? Wouldn't her ass be dead? Her ass should be dead from that. That's the worst backstory I've ever seen. Lots of superheroes have better backstories. Spider-Man, bit by a radioactive spider, gets radioactive powers, became Spider-Man. Great story right there. Iron Man, imprisoned in a cave, had an arc reactor put in him, escaped with a whole tub of armor, came back and dubbed himself Iron Man, built himself a bunch of suits, and has been Iron Man ever since. Captain America started off as a weak, scrawny dude who couldn't fight, was very weak, got put into a machine that gave him a lot of strength, and has become one of the most strongest, and became a very strong soldier and a mascot for war named Captain America. What else can I think of? Man, there's a lot of other heroes to think of. Like, lots of other MCU characters have had so many better backstories. Here. Backstories that made sense. Oh yeah, and Hulk got exposed to radiation and became the monster known as the Hulk. All better backstories that make sense. And what's more, these characters I mentioned all have weaknesses. And they're not overpowered and invincible. Because throughout the whole film, there's not a single weakness for Carol Danvers, and this just makes her a boring Mary Sue like Rey. And if anyone can compare her to Superman, don't compare her to Superman. Because even Superman has weaknesses and is actually not cocky and likable. Carol Danvers is not. The film overall is just not up to the recent standard of the MCU, especially when compared to highly entertaining movies like Thor Ragnarok, Avengers Infinity War, and many others. A few moments just annoy me in particular, such as Brie Larson's cocky jokes, facial expressions, and her unfunny, plucky little quips. She's just obnoxious. In the trailers, she was just already appearing unlikable in these trailers. That's why the trailers were getting backlash, because she just didn't seem all that likable. Carol Danvers in the comics is actually likable and is not a Mary Sue. She's way better in the comics. And to me, the primary issue with this movie is really how much it just makes anything having to do with Nick Fury, Coulson, and S.H.I.E.L.D. worse. These storylines were terrible and needed to never have happened. SLJ was fine in it. Samuel Jackson was fine in it. I mean, he was silly and goofy, which is totally in line with the Nick Fury character. Oh, actually, not really, no. Samuel Jackson was still good in this movie, but Nick Fury is not a goofy character. That's not who Nick Fury is. And the animation moments were distracting. They made Coulson and Fury look 30 years younger, which I guess was fine, but you could literally tell the CGI. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s place and involvement made little to no sense, other than they wanted to get away to have CM tie with the rest of the MCU and give her an into ENDGAME, which creates problems in the first 3 Avengers movies. Because if not, then why didn't Nick Fury just use the pager to contact her in Avengers 2012, Age of Ultron, Winter Soldier, all those? And the jokes in this movie are just not funny. Maybe the only times they laughed were just with Nick Fury's lines, because Nick Fury was actually much more funny than Carol Danvers. And I can't recall any other jokes though, but I don't remember the jokes. And they just produced more eye rolls for me than anything else. But they tried really, really hard to be funny, which was just painful. Jackson did all the right delivering the jokes properly, even if they weren't good. Larson didn't even have one funny bone in her body. No, like, even other MCU films did the jokes that were actually funny. Okay? They did better jokes in plenty of other MCU movies. And these got a laugh, and they actually knew when to be quiet. Even Ranrock did better jokes than Captain Marvel. And even Ranrock shut the jokes off during the fight scenes. And speaking of Larson, she just looks annoyed, like I've already said. I mean, just take the dealing with the kid in Iron Man that Tony Stark had, where yeah, he was annoyed by the kid, but it was kind of funny. Larson's literally dealing with a kid whom she wasn't supposed to be annoyed with, but oh boy, did she seem annoyed. I mean, I realize she's not supposed to be personable, but they kept on giving her snarky lines, and in comics, she's not even supposed to be snarky at all. And the reason this movie just doesn't cut the Marvel mustard is a very simple, straightforward one. The story's not even good, and it's not good because it's too busy making a statement. And honestly, it's on the studio, which is one example. I mean, just Carol Danvers just wasn't a movie material character. The story just wasn't there. I mean, what good there was with Carol had been rooted in an even worse adaptation for the screen. And another great example for the worst thing of this movie is the misuse of the Skrulls. Like one of the major, most well-known enemies in Marvel Comics, they flipped it on its head. And they just bolted in a minor political message and a cheap plot twist. And the Skrulls are now the good guys. The good guys. Yeah. The villains, the Skrulls, are suddenly the good guys. What? Why are they good guys? Why? They're not supposed to be good guys. I can see the mean when someone probably raised their hand that you were trying to try how to make the movie interesting. Somebody was like, oh hey, I have an idea. What is it, guys? Let's flip the bad guys and the good guys to give it that spark. It doesn't serve an enrich to the story. It's not convincing enough heel turn. It's just stupid. And if I was the director of this movie, it's like, no. That's a stupid idea, dude. Get out, you're fired. That's how it should have went. The Skrulls are not good guys. Did you guys even read the Skrulls comics, whoever directed this? The mileage out of using the Skrulls as the evil villains they really are is just wasted, and disappointment and a big smack in the face to anybody who even read Marvel Comics and would know about the Skrulls. And there's just zero character development in this movie, unlike the other MCU movies that all had character development. Like, Carol's supposed to be the leader of this, was supposed going to be becoming the leader of this second coming Marvel's MCU. And there'd be legit hardships to overcome, some sort of vulnerability, something that lets us know more about the actual person. Everything is handled in flashbacks, and the only sort of glimpse into Carol's life is just shows one theme. You can't do anything because you're a woman. This does not help you define as a person. People are so much more. There's lots of people that do more besides just their gender. It's part of them, not what defines them. Another famous comic book hero even said, like, it's what you do that defines you. We don't see that with Carol. Just that she's this overpowered woman we know nothing of. And that's her main identifying character role. An overpowered character nobody cares about. I even thought the beginning of the film was confusing. I wasn't sure what was going on until the third quarter of the way through. And when I say confusing, I don't mean like in a good way. I mean movies that make you guess what's happening until the last second. But this movie just seems sloppy and left out a lot of explanation in the first half of the movie. One other major issue I have with this movie is that the action scenes were lame. Like, really, Marvel, you couldn't have done better than that. I've seen some amazing fight scenes ever in Marvel movies, and this movie didn't have an amazing fight scene once. The only collaboration part was just when Captain Marvel stopped the missiles and brought them back into space, but all the fight scenes were just her pointing her fist at the enemy, then blasting them with bundles of energy, which is lame. Like, that's not even a fight scene. That's just a cheap cop-out. Just an overuse of power from the hero and too much CGI that nobody liked. And after the first time she saw energy out of her fist, it was so predictable at this rate that she would just use that against everyone she faced. Not exciting at all. And I've already mentioned the whole Brie Larson debate and her hating white men, so I don't want to mention that crap again. Like Carol Danvers in the comics In the comics, she's not this stuck-up or lacking emotion Mary Sue. Captain Marvel was actually likable in her comics, was actually a good character. It smelled more in the comic books, much more nicer in the comic books even. Then the one or two scenes Brie Larson attempted to smile, and whenever Carol Danvers just came off as an unlikable dick. And her smiles look fake in this movie whenever she tries to. Oh. And believe me, guys, believe me, there was one scene in particular that I was wanting to see this movie for, but really pissed me off. And this ruined the movie more. You want to know what that one final thing was? How Nick Fury lost his eye. And here's how this goes. I thought like maybe the Skrulls were going to burn his eye out during a fight, and that caused him to lose his trust for Captain Marvel. That would have been a better backstory, and it would have made sense for the Winter Soldier. When I trust somebody that lost an eye, I thought he was referring to something like that. And that would have made more sense. It would have tied into the MCU. Probably would have been a more decent backstory right there. No, that's not what they go with. Here's the thing. There's this stupid running gag where him and this alien CGI cat named Goose have this idiotic bond that isn't even cute at all. In fact, it's just really annoying. And this is where it all happens. After they get away from the Skrulls, he picks up Goose, is like, that was a close call, Goosey, huh? And you want to know what the Goose does? He lost his eye because Goose freaking scratched it! Yeah. Goose, a alien CGI cat, scratched his fucking eyeball. That's his backstory. Fuck! When that happened, I was just pissed off, and I left the theater and waited in the lobby for a long ass time, and I didn't come back till the whole definition behind the pager and Infinity War happened. Like, I just wanted to leave. Badly. No, I just wanted to see how the damn movie ended and how the Infinity War post-credits scene tied into this. So I unfortunately went back in. God. And I shouldn't have done that. And I will have to say that SJW and woke undertones of the writing was definitely there. And to a lot of people, and now it's starting to get to the point in entertainment, it's being very offensive. And even then, a lot of woke movies today are bombing because people are tired of that. But this was back when woke films made money. Thankfully, they're bombing now. And hopefully soon they're eventually going to die out. Because I can already bet they're going to die out eventually. Very quick. However, does this movie have redeeming qualities? Sure. It does. Like, for one, I like the 90s setting. Because I was a late 90s and early 2000s kid. So I got a lot of nostalgia from this movie. And I did love the Blockbuster scene. Which was very nice. Because I made me remember when I always used to go to Blockbuster as a kid. So it was a nice throwback seeing Blockbuster in this movie. Which was a nice moment. And I do like Phil Coulson is back in a brief cameo, as is Ronan the Accuser and Korath from Guardians of the Galaxy, setting up their roles in that film. And heck, while it was kind of a little obvious, the de-aging of Samuel L. Jackson's portrayal of Nick Fury was the only thing I liked. And Nick Fury's jokes were the only jokes that got a laugh out of me in the whole theater. And not to mention, I did love the Stan Lee logo memorial in this movie. It was a good, since we had lost Stan Lee a few months before this movie released, so it was nice to see a logo throwback to him, but why couldn't that logo just be in Avengers Endgame? Why couldn't we have just had it in Endgame? Probably would have been better. You could have had it after the credits of Endgame. Even if you already had a logo for Endgame, you could have just put it after the credits. To further cap off the MCU. And one final redeeming quality, the mid-credits scene. Which, honestly, quite frankly, the mid-credits scene should have just been the whole movie. Or this should have been the opening scene for Endgame. After Hawkeye loses his family. Why couldn't they just put it after that? Because how this goes was back to 2018. Rogers, Nat, Banner, and Rose are looking at the snap victim count back at the compound. And Rogers is like, this is a nightmare. And then that pager they found when they return to Earth, it goes off, it shuts off. Then Romanoff's about to leave the room, and then Danvers shows up asking where Fury is. And I did get hyped, not because of Carol Danvers being an Endgame, All because it meant it was like at least one more month till Avengers Endgame was released. That was only why. So I feel like that post-credit scene should have been saved as the opening scene for Endgame. Could have just had it after Hawkeye lost his family, and after Danvers asks where's Fury, then it cuts to the Marvel Studios logo, and then Tony Stark scene. Would have been a better idea than making us watch a shitty Mary Sue movie to get to this post-credit scene. That was the other reason I even went to see the film, was to see it tie into Endgame. So yeah, despite some good throwbacks here, Captain Marvel sucks ass, and it's not a film. It's still better than Eternals though, I'll say that, but it still sucks. And I don't ever want to rewatch this movie again. In the end, with the exception of the mid-credit scene, I strongly recommend you avoid the rest of this movie and just skip right to Endgame after you watch the mid-credit scene of this trash and just pretend that's the opening of the movie. Anyway, that's it for my for my rant on Captain Marvel. Wondering how I'm going to rate Captain Marvel. Here's how I'm going to rate this movie.
So overall, do not waste any time with this dumpster fire of a movie and just skip to the credits sooner because that's all you need to see in this piece of shit, and then start on Endgame and pretend that scener is the opening scene of the movie. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Captain Marvel, I'm going to give Captain Marvel a 3 out of 10.
There we go, past me. I ranted on Captain Marvel. Are we actually at Endgame now? Like we're supposed to be?
Yeah, but turn to your left first.
What do you mean, turn to my left? Oh!
You're going to need that for the Endgame review first.
What the heck is it?
It's another gauntlet, except this time it's a power gauntlet.
That looks just like my gauntlet. Except it's all red. It looks a little more fancy. So you want me to put it on to be able to access the way we're going to review Endgame?
Yeah.
Okay then. Alright. Huh. Looks cool. Well, since we all know what's next, past me wanted me to show you guys this. Huh. So. Oh, it locks? Past me, you didn't tell me this locks.
No it doesn't. Try again, moron.
Ah, never mind. So, we all know what's gonna be next, guys. So, I gotta go get ready for my duel with Past Me and our Endgame review. Until then, guys, that will be it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe to Don G. Corleone.